Good to see all you guys. Very excited to have this night. This has been, these weeks are culminations of lots of things. As you come in, by the way, there is some spaces on your left side over here. I think everybody started here and started packing in. There's a whole section on the left that you can have access to. Great. You know, we don't take ourselves very seriously. We take God real seriously. We take our mission real seriously, and I think that'll be tonight as well. So we're very excited about this. We're excited and we're adamant about our goal, our mission as a church to help people follow Jesus. That's not just a slogan or a bumper sticker. That's something we're really serious about. And we believe that this initiative, Trusting the Promise, is going to help us with that, which makes it real serious to us too. We're real serious about this happening because we think this will lead to people coming to faith in Christ and following Christ with their life. So I want to walk you through what that's going to look like over the next couple of years. We're going to take just a little bit of time for me to present a couple of things to you, some details. Then we're also going to have kind of a panel of several people that you can ask questions to, which is going to be really helpful. So to start off, I want to ask a favor of you, and I also want to give you a two-word phrase that's really important. The favor is, as I go through this presentation over the next 15, 20 minutes, there's an index card in the back of your seat in front of you. You want to grab one of those. Go ahead and grab that. And what I want to ask you to do is as we're talking here, I'm going to say something that's confusing. I don't know what it'll be yet, but I'm sure I'm saying something that's confusing. And when I do, you write down what the heck are you talking about there, and just kind of wave your card. And there are people watching. Barry knows we'll be watching. If you have a question about anything, write it down, wave it a little bit. They'll come grab it, and the panel will answer those questions. In fact, if you don't ask any questions, the panel will start having to, do selective dancing and such because we won't even talk about it. So you've got to fill that time with the questions. So if you have questions you've come in with already, go ahead and write it down. If we answer it again, we'll skip over it. That's fine. You can do that. That'd be fine. So do that. That's the favor. If you can do that. The two words that are really important. In fact, I'm going to put them on the screen in just a second for you to have them to catch the importance of these words. If you're taking notes, this is the moment you want to write this down. The two words I want you to grab in your mind is the words "or so." Now, this is really important. Let me show you how this is going to work. So in just a moment, I'm going to say something like, here's what we're anticipating happening in the next 6 months. Okay? So I'm going to put that word. And when I say that, you think the next 6 months or so. Like you got to add those words. I might not say "or so." You're going to add "or so." Okay? In fact, anytime I give you a date, you just add "or so" to the end of that date. Okay? Because that's a really important thing. Now, I'm saying this for a real important reason. We're approaching this with a lot of urgency. It would be easier tonight if we said we're going to do tonight in about 6 or 8 months. Let's get all of our ducks absolutely in definitive row and make sure we have every single little bitty detail. But we feel like we've got to approach this with some urgency. We're packing this building out, and we don't want anybody to feel unwelcome here. We're seeing people come to faith in Christ, and we don't want to, so we're not rushing anything at all, but we've got some urgency about this. And if you've ever led something like this, especially in a volunteer organization, you know it's a little bit like pushing Jell-O uphill. It's just kind of challenging. It's just, there's things that are moving around. So you combine the complexities of construction, the busy nature of the subcontractors in the Nashville area. You combine that with unknown nature of codes officials, the weather, Kim Jong-un. Like you combine all these things in the world, and it's just a little bit like moving targets. So I could be really, really vague and not give you any information at all and be 100% accurate. But that wouldn't help us at all. Or I can wait and predict every single eventuality, and all the while people won't have room for them in this crowded building. Or I can give you the best, most honest, most transparent answer I can tonight, knowing that something I say is probably not going to be right, because something's going to change after I tell you, and it's going to change the eventuality of all of that. Okay? So it's as accurate as I know it right now, but things will change, and so just add "or so" along the way, and that would be great. Okay? That helps when you're trying to push Jell-O uphill, the "or so." So what I want to do is just kind of roll through several brackets for you. The first one is what you can anticipate in the next 6 to 8 weeks. Okay? Can you actually see that? Oh yeah, good. It's real fussy right there. Next 6 to 8 weeks. So I want to give you some of those things, and we're going to branch out a little broader, and then a little broader still. In the next 6 to 8 weeks, we're going to complete our series, Trusting the Promise. So you're going to get a lot of information on Sundays. You're going to have events like this. We've got a couple other things scheduled. You're going to hear a lot about this over the next few weeks. Then on March 4th, our church family will make commitments to make these dreams a reality. Now, you probably have a couple questions about that. One question is, how much should my family commit? Like, what am I expected to do? That's not up to me. We don't have an expectation for each person supposed to do a certain amount, or you're supposed to do a certain amount. Every family needs to seek out God and just ask God whatever he has in mind, and God's going to lead each of us. As God leads each of us, that's going to work fine. In fact, I do want you to grab, if you can, there should be a card that looks like this in the back of your seat in front of you. Go ahead and grab one of those. Now, relax. We're not asking you to do anything with them tonight. Not asking for any money tonight. Not asking for you to commit to anything tonight. This is a commitment-free zone tonight, so don't worry about any of that. We're not even taking an offering, so, just don't get worried. But on March 4th, we're going to be collecting these cards as a church to commit between now and the end of 2020. Now, Scott's going to go through these in a little more detail later, but what will happen is we're going to try to do, well, I don't even go through that. You can look at that in just a minute. There's some more stuff there. But we're not asking any family to give a certain dollar amount. That's not on the radar for anybody at all. What we're asking is that every single family seek out God and consider what it would look like to sacrifice and what it would look like to stretch. So we're asking every family, if WellSpring's your home, I want to ask you to sacrifice, I want to ask you to stretch. But that may look very different for one family than another. In fact, I know it will look very different for one family than another. For one family, a sacrifice and a stretch might be giving up cable or eating out a little less often. For another family, it might mean selling an extra vehicle or something. There's all different kinds of things what a stretch and a sacrifice might mean. For a stretch and a sacrifice, for one family, it might mean a couple dollars a month. For others, it might mean thousands and thousands of dollars. Every family is a little different. So we're not asking each family to do a certain thing. We're not asking for equal gifts at all. What we're hoping for is equal levels of sacrifice and equal levels of stretch. Sacrificing a little now so that over the long haul, God can do all kinds of things through those gifts. So that's the first question. The second question is, how much do we think the WellSpring family will commit as a whole? Well, in 2012, we had our initiative to build this current facility, and WellSpring was a church of about 300 people, committed over $600,000. Today, we're about 3 times that size, so we think we'll commit between $1.5 and $2 million. That's what we're anticipating there. In addition to that, on March the 4th, we're going to receive a kickoff offering. Now, this is a big day for us. Having that extra money, we think this will be probably the biggest offering in the history of our church. And having that extra money will allow us in those early months to have some cash on hand to do some things without having to borrow and those deals, construction costs and those things that come up. As we've talked to people who specialize in these things, what they tell us is typically you'll bring 10% of the overall campaign in that first kickoff offering. So if we're going to bring in between $1.5 and $2 million over 3 years, which is what we assume, then we think we can bring in between $150,000 and $200,000 on that day. It's going to be a big offering for us, and that would really help us have some extra cash on hand to do some of the initial things early on, and be so helpful to get us started in Columbia. There's some things we want to do really early on in Columbia. So that's on March 4th also. Then on March 18th, we're going to announce the total amount given to the kickoff offering and the total amount pledged through the end of 2020. Now, a real obvious question, if you're looking at that, is why does it take so long to announce the total? If commitments happen on March 4th and we're announcing 2 weeks later, why 2 weeks? It's very simple. We have slow counters. It takes them a long time to just that's not true. We want to have a chance for everyone to be a part of this, okay? So whether you're given $10 or you're given thousands of dollars, we want everyone to be a part of this. Because whatever you choose to give, you're going to be a part of the good things that happen in Columbia. Whatever you choose to give, you're going to be a part of building this facility out here, and we want everyone to be a part of that. So when lives get changed, those who were able to help with their prayers, with their finances, with their effort, they're all part of that. So we want more and more people to be part of that. Everyone won't be here on March 4th. People travel, people get sick, people are going. So we don't want to say, well, here's the one chance you have to be a part of it. We're going to give a 2-week period for people to get a time to get in on that initial ground floor thing, and then we'll announce the totals and we'll move on, okay? April 14th, this is the new date. April 14th, we're going to have an informational meeting about Columbia. April the 14th. We'll hear more information about this over the coming weeks, but I want to give you a save the date type thing now. On that Saturday, we're going to be holding an informational meeting about our future work in Columbia. So if you have interest in learning more, if you would like to be on the team and you know that I want to be able to help in Columbia, or you just want to know some information, either way, come one, come all. You're not committing to anything. You're just trying to find out more. We'll have plans to attend on April the 14th. That's right before you give your taxes away, so you'll all be in a good mood, okay? April 14th. April 22nd, everyone is invited. It's also a new date. Everyone's invited for a groundbreaking. We're going to do a groundbreaking right here. Now, 2 really important things for me to tell you about the groundbreaking. Number 1, this is a BYOS event. Bring your own shovel. Okay? This is not a day where all of you watch a handful of us with the pretty chrome shovels. We're too cheap to buy those, first of all. But second of all, this is not about a handful of us doing it. We we envision, and when we talked about this, we're all like, that's a really cool idea. Why doesn't anybody else do that? So we may find out why no one else does that soon. But what we think is going to happen is, as a family, we're all going to bring a shovel, and we're all going to line around the edge, and we're all going to dig a scoop at the same time. We're all doing this. This is not a handful of us when everybody gets to watch. So if you don't have a shovel, we're not buying you one. We're too cheap for that too. So you've got a couple of weeks to plan that. Find a neighbor with a shovel. In fact, that'd be a fantastic conversation. Hey, dude, can I borrow your shovel? What for? You can tell them. That's a great conversation starter. You're welcome for that. If you have an extra shovel, plan to bring it because somebody's not going to have one or whatever. Bring your own shovel. Second thing about that date that's really important is we're not all going to fit. I know that ahead of time. I don't know if you've noticed or not, but we're a little full in this building. It's like we need to build a new one or something. I think there's probably an idea there. All that. So we're going to have 4 services worth of people, all in one time, one setting, and most importantly, one parking lot. With that in mind, let me give you 2 really important numbers to think about. The 2 numbers are 135 and 1,010. Any ideas of what this is? 135 parking spaces, very good. This past Sunday we had 1,010 people who came to our church. 1,010 people don't park in 135 parking spaces. So we got 4 services. That's why we do what we do, right? So we're going to need you to help us with that. Now, some of you need good parking spots for physical reasons, or you got small kids or whatever. Totally understand that. There's no guilt trip coming from me ever. But the average high on April 22nd in Spring Hill, Tennessee is 73 degrees. I went ahead and looked it up. 73 is nice. So we're going to need some of you to walk. If you live over in Wades Grove, you can walk through. Come on. If you live in Chapman's Crossing, Chapman's Retreat, even Burtonwood, ride a bike. It'd be fantastic. 73 degrees. Some of you can drive over to Chapman's Retreat Elementary School. Have we asked them yet? I don't think we've asked them yet. Julie, we're going to need to ask them about that. Chapman's Retreat Elementary School, drive over there and walk or ride your bike over, okay? Because we're not going to have enough spots. 1,010 people, 135 spots, okay? We're going to need you to help us with that. And again, I don't want anyone feeling bad about parking close if you need to park close. Everybody hear me say that? No one feels bad about that. I will be uncomfortable if you run half marathons and you're 27 and you're parked right out here, and I'll probably be uncomfortable with that. So don't do that. All right? Next thing. That's the next 6 to 8 weeks. Let's go out a little further. Next 6 to 8 months. The next 6 to 8 months or so, our Columbia team will begin leading us in regular and consistent service projects in Columbia. So that's going to happen right off early on. For our first outreach, we hope to have 1 or more backyard VBSs in Columbia this summer. So we do backyard VBSs all over in Spring Hill. We'd like to do some in Columbia. Now, can I let you in on a little secret? In my initial notes, I wrote down all these notes and then I passed them around to some staff and said, did I miss anything? Like, forgot anything? In my initial notes, I said we wanted to have 2 to 3 backyard VBSs in Columbia. And they all said, let's not commit ourselves to stupid. And I said, okay, I'll say 1. We want to have 1 of those. I'd really like to have 2 or 3. But I wrote down 1 to be a little more conservative. So we'd like to do at least 1, if not 2 or 3 in Columbia, if we can help with that, all right? In addition to the projects we're going to do, we're probably going to start out maybe 1 a quarter or something, and then ramp up to every other month or every month, do it a little faster and a little faster. We'll be escalating that. But in addition to that, we're going to look for some ways in between those projects to do like some prayer walks in the city, to look for ways to meet people and do that. It's a little less formal. The projects, what's going to happen with the projects is this team, whoever this team is going to help us organize and lead and plan those projects. But then in a couple weeks before the project happens, we're going to announce it to the whole church and say, come help us with this. We need 8 volunteers or 26 volunteers or whatever we need. Or in some events, maybe it's a come one, come all, but we'll announce it ahead of time. And so not only will the Columbia folks be part of that, but then some Spring Hill people will go and help with that as well, which will really make it good. But in those early days, in addition to those projects, we're going to do some prayer walks. We're going to talk to city officials about the needs. We're going to talk to other churches or nonprofits. And we need some of the people on this team to help us to get the word out on those things. We don't want to recreate the wheel. There's no reason to recreate the wheel. We're not in competition with any church in Columbia. We're not in competition with any other nonprofit in Columbia. When we first moved to Spring Hill, I've been thinking more and more about what we did when we first moved here, because we came and started this church. We know how that works, so this is kind of similar to that. We wanted to make a tangible difference in the community. We saw GraceWorks in Franklin doing great. We said that's like a hospital, social services hospital in Franklin. And we saw in Columbia, Family Center, like a hospital, doing these great, all kind of multifaceted things. But we said it's crazy for people to have to drive 30 minutes when they're in crisis to get food. That's silly that people have to do that. Those are great organizations, but it's silly to have to do that. So gas prices were just beginning to spike. That was back in 2005, 6, something like that. So we said, if there's hospitals in Franklin, Columbia, let's build an ER in Spring Hill. Now that's ironic today, looking back at the hospital ER conversation that we've all had as a community. But that's what we were saying. And so we started the well right across the courtyard, and then it became independent and all of that, which is great. So we want to take a good look at what's being done in Columbia. I'm not committing us to start the well or those kind of things. We're going to look around in Columbia and say, just like we did here, where's the need? Let's find a need and do something about it. We want to go to Columbia. What's being done now? Where's the holes? Let's find a way to meet those needs. So that's in the next 6 months. The next thing is also in the next 6 to 8 months is we anticipate breaking ground on our site. So we're going to break ground on April 22nd, but the next 6 to 8 months or so, thank you, we anticipate actually having bulldozers in the field doing things. Or so. Did I mention the or so part? Okay. 6 to 8 months. Let's go a little further. By the end of 2020, here's what we anticipate happening by the end of 2020. We anticipate beginning a campus in Columbia by the end of 2020. So that we have live. Somebody was asking me earlier, they said, it's a great question for everybody, so let me bring it up. Is that going to be like an outreach thing, or we'll do like just missions type stuff, or is it going to be the church? It's going to be kind of both. We're going to have live music, live teaching, full children's programming, live track, live groups, all the stuff that you are used to here. We're going to try to replicate all of that there. Lots of creamer for your coffee. I mean, everything that you're used to here, we're going to try to replicate that there. Same purpose of helping people follow Jesus. Trying to help people find family, know God, discover the purpose, make an impact. Same stuff that we'll do there as well in Columbia by the end of 2020. We also want to finish the expansion in Spring Hill by the end of 2020. Okay? So, I don't know if you'll be able to see this, and we'll have some boards later for you to look at so you can get a little up close, but the drawings we have now, which may get changed, that's kind of the or so thing as well, look like this. So I don't know if you can see this or not. We're in this auditorium right here. This is the auditorium right here that we're in now. So you'll notice the lobby on top of that. The lobby's on top of the screen. The lobby becomes like an L-shaped lobby and goes down along the side of this building. Be about the same width as our current lobby, just be a big L shape. And then the auditorium will be out on that side of that. Then in this room, if you weren't here the other day, in this room there'll be 3 classes on this side, 3 classes on this side, and upstairs with 3 and 3, so 12 total classrooms. The stage walls essentially will be extended out across the room. So you guys are all in what will be still the auditorium, still 2 stories, be 2 rows of classrooms on each side, 12 total. That'll all happen. Then parking lot will be everywhere else because we have 135 spots. Did I mention we have 135 spots? We need more parking spots. So all around, basically the building will be, yeah, if you have questions, I've messed something up already, I'm sure. So wait, you get your questions out. We need those. So the facility will be creek and green space and planters and all that, and parking lot and building. We'll be pretty well full at the end of that process. All right. Third thing's going to happen is we're going to complete our Trusting the Promise campaign, and we anticipate raising between $1.5 and $2 million. And we're asking people to commit through the end of 2020. Part of that is so as we add people, as people come on, we can say, come be a part of this. You didn't miss this one moment. We're trying to raise this money through the end of 2020 to do it in a fiscally responsible way and things. So people, if they start coming to church at the end of 2019, fall of 2020, they can jump in, help us finish strong, wherever that's at, and be a part of that. Let me give you a couple bullet points, and then my time is about up. So let me give you a couple bullet points, and then we'll do this. First bullet point is 85 cents. Over the last year, for every dollar that came into the church, we've spent about just a little under 85 cents of it. We're in good financial shape. We've been conservative. Our financial team really helps us with that. Our staff really helps us with that. We don't waste money on things. We're spending about 85 cents, just a little under 85 cents on the dollar. We're keeping our expenses low so we can complete this project in a fiscally responsible way. And that's important for you to know. If you have more detailed questions about finances, we can answer those one-on-one. But I want to give you a ballpark of where things are at in that way. Trusting the Promise projected costs. We anticipate when you look at the building, parking lot, you look at the Columbia, launching Columbia and all of that, we think all of that together will run somewhere between $3 and $4 million. Again, we could wait till we got exact numbers, but then they would change. So we're telling you what they are as right now. We'll give you more information as they get closer. This is for the building. Plans are still being finalized for that. This is also for the initial cost of Columbia. When we started WellSpring in 2003, we had raised some money before we started that would get us through the first 24 months. And it kind of trickled off. Like the 24th month, I think we had $100 came in or something. Changed the world. That $100 really fixed everything, right? So you had to be self-sufficient very quickly. And that's what we planned on doing there, and we anticipate something similar here. So we think in the next 2 to 3 years, Columbia will be self-sufficient financially as a campus, from Spring Hill being self-sufficient as a campus as well. But it takes some money to get that started. You're not self-sufficient on day one in life, with children, or at church. It's just the same way. So we think all of that will cost between $3 and $4 million. The Trusting the Promise goal, as I've told you before, is between $1.5 and $2 million. Now, I think the thing that's really cool, we didn't plan it this way exactly, but we realized that as we got into it, you don't have to be a mathematician. That's roughly half of the cost. Almost exactly, I guess, half of the cost. 1.5 for 3, 2 of 4. So nobody likes debt. We can all agree on that, right? No one likes debt. But I don't know very many people who put 50% down on their home. It's a pretty fiscally responsible, I think, approach to that. So we're doing this in a fiscally sound way. There will be some debt, but we're doing it in a fiscally sound way. Last point is this. Our current debt from the building and all the stuff we've done already is $2.25 million, roughly. That's what we owe currently. Now, obviously, this means our current debt will grow, and no one likes that. So here's the complete transparency of the situation, okay? If we had waited when we were in Spring Hill Elementary, as we considered, if we had waited till we had cash to pay off the land, the farmhouse, build a new building with cash, if we'd waited for that, and we talked about it, we'd still be in the elementary school. I'm confident of that. And we hadn't grown in the elementary school for several years. So odds are good we'd still be about 300 people. And I don't like that a building impacts evangelism. I really dislike that idea that in America a building impacts evangelism. But it does, apparently, at least from our experience. So that means the hundreds of lives that would have been impacted over the last 4 years probably wouldn't have been, just based on track record. And the 100 or so baptisms that happened in the last 2 years probably wouldn't have happened either. And the $169,000 that our church family gave away last year would have been much, much less. So I don't like debt. And I promise I'm not running for Congress, so don't worry about the way I spend money. But our leadership is committed to borrow as little as possible. That was funnier than that. I mean, for heaven's sakes, Congress? Come on. Our leadership is committed to borrow as little as possible. We're committed to pay it off early if we can, ahead of schedule. But let us use every opportunity to reach as many people as we can while it's still day. Right? I mean, is that something we can all... Okay. All right. Do you have questions? I'm right on time. That is fantastic. You see that? Questions? Questions?
Barry will pick those up. Yeah, by all means, this will be a really short evening if you don't turn in questions. So please do that. I wanted to, while he's collecting those, I wanted to speak just really quickly about the commitment card. Andy mentioned this earlier. If you haven't yet, make sure that you've grabbed one of these out of the seat in front of you. Take this with you when you leave tonight. Don't do anything with it. Don't do anything with it right now. But basically, on the and as Andy mentioned, this is going to look a little bit different for every family. We don't tell people, how much you should commit. But all we're asking for you to do is over these next few weeks, take it with you and join us as we kind of walk through this series together, and be praying and just ask God to show you what commitment, what sacrificial giving looks like. And so if you want to just look at this with me, if you've got one there with you, on the front, we'll collect all of your information, right, so we know who you are. And there's a key sentence there: we joyfully commit to making this financial gift above and beyond our regular giving. So this is kind of an above and beyond gift. And what you'll write in, you're going to bring these back with you on March the 4th. Okay, that's going to be the Commitment Sunday. So they'll live in your homes until then. And you'll write in, there's going to be the number 1. This is a kickoff amount. And that's going to be a one-time gift that you'll give when you turn in the commitment card. The second blank is the commitment that you're giving through 2020. That's kind of the length of the Trust and the Promise Initiative. And there's actually a chart on the back if you want to get some idea of how just being faithful to give even a small amount regularly, how that adds up. So there's a chart on the back that can help you with that. So that's the second blank. And then you just total up the commitment, you'll add the date, and you'll sign your name to it. So It's pretty simple. If you have any questions about the commitment card, you're absolutely welcome to ask those as well. Honestly, we really feel like this is, I think Barry mentioned on Sunday, this is a spiritual journey that we're all going on. And it could be that you're at a spot, maybe you've just lost a job and you have no idea what the next few months or years look like. There could be some of you where the thing that you're going to commit to do is to pray. And that's where God has you right now. And if that's you, you can just write pray on the card, bring that back with you on the 4th, and drop that in. So it will look a little bit different, but we're looking forward to Commitment Sunday. That's going to be an exciting time for all of us as a church. So if you have additional questions, by the way, during this, we're going to have kind of a Q&A session where we work through some of the questions that you've asked. But if you have additional questions, feel free to grab another card. You can steal a card from someone if there's not another one there in front of you. But we'll work through that.
One important thing about the commitment cards too is I won't see any of those except for the one that I fill out for my family. We have a handful of people who are our accounting team who will process those, but those will be strictly confidential from everybody else. So we won't know who gave, who committed, who didn't commit. All that'll be real confidential. It's important to us.
You guys know Andy, you know Barry, our executive minister. Chad Balcom is also up here. If you don't know Chad, he does just about everything, and he also helped a lot with getting into this building, with kind of leading the efforts to get this building built, and he's going to be helping out with getting this expansion done as well. So this is Chad, in case you're wondering who he is if you haven't yet met him. I know. You can cheer, it's completely fine. So we'll move into kind of a Q&A, and I'm just going to read, depending on, we'll see how many of these we get through. If we don't answer your question, if we don't get to your question, it's not anything personal. Just ask us later and we'll get through it. So, all right, so first card, will there be a slide from the second story classroom to the first story classroom? I hope all of these, this is like a kiddie slide, I'm guessing. So this may be an indicator of things to come.
Seems like a good idea to me.
Depends how many commitments come in. Really, that's the bottom line. Just, it's a financial issue.
There will be one slide or so. Give or take one slide.
Plus or minus one, yes.
How did you come up with the number of 750 seats for the new auditorium?
Who wants this? You want me to take it? The real balance here is this. We feel like when we get done with this expansion, there's not going to be another auditorium expansion after this. We have just shy of 10 acres. This is going to max the property. We also know that the code's ratio of how many parking spots per seat is really kind of irrelevant for us. I think it's because we have so many kids or something, but we know that the parking spots we have now are roughly the number we need for this many seats. Now, sometimes it gets a little hairy out there, I know, but it gets hairy in here sometimes too, so we think it's even. So the ratio for us is we're saying to the developer, we want to get as many seats as possible. So we think this is our last big build on this property, but we need to have parking spots because people want to bring their car to church. So what's the ratio that we can do that in? And 750 is roughly where we're landing out on that. It may be plus or minus on that. Again, that's not been finalized, so don't feel like you've been misled if it's 725 or 775. We're going to try to get as many seats in as we can with parking spots at about this ratio. Did I miss anything? No. Okay.
All right, next card. What's the plan when the Columbia campus gets up and running for a pastor?
We actually have a plan to have a pastor in place before Columbia gets up and running as a church. So we're going to begin with initiatives in Columbia, and sometime between now and when the church actually starts, probably ideally 5 or 6 months before we actually begin having services, we'd like to bring a campus pastor on so they could get to know people here, become familiar with Columbia, and then on day one, when the campus opens, they've got a campus pastor. So that's the thought on that.
Another one about Columbia. Live teaching and worship in Columbia. Will that be live in person or live via video feed?
Yeah, we don't anticipate right now. I don't know if any of us on leadership think that video makes sense for us exactly right now. It does for some churches, and we're not trying to make a statement about any of that. But we feel like the way the message is communicated delivers probably a message also. And so for us, we feel like just an authentic way to do it, again, for us, is the live teaching. So we're hoping to raise up teachers, whether it's through the the campus pastor would probably do the primary teaching there. There would be some shifting back and forth as well.
This question, will we be able to volunteer with actually building and outfitting the Spring Hill and Columbia Church? So I think this probably has to do with hands-on helping with construction. I'm sensing someone who wants to help with setup and tear down at a future Columbia campus, by the way. I don't know, we'll see.
Is there a name on there?
Find me later.
When we built this building, we talked about it and tried to discover lots of different ways, and we were able to do a few things with landscape and a lot of the audio, video, lights type stuff. And it seems like when I get that question, a lot of people talk about painting. And financially, it just doesn't end up making sense. We can have, when you're painting this much, for the time that we can line up enough people to do it, we just don't really end up saving any money. So I think we'll look for opportunities to do that. And I hope we can find something just because of the community that it builds. And so we'll try to do that, but we'll just see how it goes.
The real advantage, I think, right now with the way we're doing this time compared to last time, if you're with us, is that while this is happening, we're also doing stuff in Columbia. So if you're saying, man, I want to swing a hammer, we're like, great, let's go to Columbia together and do that in Columbia while they continue to build this here. And so there's going to be some opportunities. So if that is your itch, we would love to help you with that, I promise you.
What time is the April 22nd groundbreaking, Andy?
Did we say that? We did say that, didn't we? 3?
What's that?
April 22nd?
3 to 3:30.
3 to 3:30.
It's Sunday afternoon.
Sunday afternoon between the 3rd and 4th service, 3 to 3:30. So if you are a 4 p.m. person, you can come to the groundbreaking and just stay after.
Unless we add another morning service by then.
Are you gonna set up a shuttle parking area during fourth service though?
A shuttle parking area?
Shuttle.
A shovel parking area to park your shovel? We need to look into that.
We need to look into that. I think we found our leader for show parking right there.
If you are riding your bike that day and you do bring a shovel and a shovel for someone else, let me know first. I'd like to get that on video.
Oh, this is a good one. 3 words here. Entrance on duplex, or so. Traffic impact on neighborhood.
Yes.
Yes to traffic impact or yes to entrance?
Yes to both.
Yeah.
We've been working with the city for quite a while trying to get the entrance on a duplex, even in our current configuration. Due to the widening of Duplex Road, we've taken a delay with that, but I think in this plan we do have an entrance onto Duplex Road, and I think we will have that in the long run, but obviously we don't have it right now. So it's coming.
There's 2 levels of approval, or at least 2 big buckets of approval. The first one is the master plan was approved with an exit on the duplex, but then when you start adding the details and say we'd actually like to start building this, you have to get it approved a whole other round of things. So the first round of things was approved back several years ago. We have to go back with actual drawings and specifics, and TDOT has to get involved, and everyone has to sign off on all that stuff. So, yeah.
What's the time frame for launching the Columbia campus? We talked about the ministry starting very soon. Have you given specifics on when that campus might start to firm up?
We have not.
Do you want to? You don't have to.
Very sensitive. Like I
It's
said.
a little tricky, but clearly by the end of 2020. So we're looking really probably 2 years out for a good time to start that. So wouldn't it be great to have the first service maybe Easter 2020, something like that? So there's some things that we'll think about. There's good times to start churches. In the spring is a good time. The fall is a good time. So we'll want to stick to one of those times, generally spring or fall. So could be 2 years.
The window is between, we won't start the campus until this is done, and we will start before the end of 2020. So there's a window there for sure, and it'll be in one of those spring, January, fall, or one of those kind of good times. But that's all I'm committed to.
Yeah, we've talked about video sermons or live worship. Will the Columbia campus have children's programming?
Absolutely. That'll be a key aspect of everything that happens here will happen there. It's not like a different feel. It's going to be the same vibe, the same programs, the same focuses, the same 4 things. It's going to be about finding family. It's going to be about all those things we talk about here. Those things are going to happen there.
Logistically, too, just think of it this way. Right now, all of our teams, whether it's hospitality or children's or parking or whatever, we're staffing for 4 services. Now, I know there'll be more people as we grow, but we're staffing for 4 services. When we get in this building, we won't need 4 services. We'll probably cut back to 2 initially. And so if we add Columbia, we're still doing fewer services than we're staffing for currently. So logistically, that helps the whole process, and that is part of the madness. So.
If you have additional questions, by the way, if you have other cards, you can raise those. We can get someone from there's one here. Julie, if you can bring those up. All right, Columbia yes, we've talked about campus pastor. What other staff will be campus staff initially and long term?
I don't think we know that yet. Ideally, we'll have somebody who is the campus pastor, but we'll need somebody who does children's, we'll need somebody who helps with students, we'll need somebody who leads worship. Will those be full-time positions, part-time positions, volunteer positions? We're just gonna pray about it, and the Lord hopefully reveals some of that stuff to us. A lot of that depends on finances, but it's kind of who steps up as well. If we can utilize volunteers like we do now, that's great.
All right, when you said break ground in Columbia, are the intentions to build a new facility versus converting and renovating an existing structure? Any thoughts on that?
I don't think I meant to say that if I said that. I'm sorry. I don't think there's any, we don't know that. I mean, I don't think we know that at this point. My assumption, and let me quantify that, that's all I'm telling you. My assumption is that we'll rent someplace kind of like we did before. I don't know that we would go in and build something immediately. Typically, that's not how you're able to do that. I don't know that we would go in and buy someplace immediately. If God opened up doors to that, we'd obviously be open to it, but I don't assume that's how that would work. The other thing that happens sometimes, I have some friends who have done this in different cities, and this has been a prayer of mine. There are times when churches are looking to do something like this, and they say, man, in 2 years we'd like to do this, and they start praying about it, and lo and behold, a building gets kind of dropped in their lap, or a church is getting ready to close, and they say, we'd love the church to continue, would you guys take it? And I've seen God do stuff like that, and so we're not aware of any of those, but we are praying about it. So if you want to join us in praying about it,
we're not praying for churches to close.
We're not praying for churches to close. See, this is where he's good. This is very helpful that he's here. Because I give myself yeah, exactly. But a free building, we'd be praying for that. So I'm okay with a store closing or something. I don't know. Yeah.
All right, a question. Do we, percentage of our current church body who lives in Columbia, will they expected to help plant and attend the Columbia campus?
Expected, I think that's too strong of a word. I'm not sure if I know what percentage of people who live in Columbia that drive here. I know we've probably there was a time when we asked for people who were interested in maybe being part of that. There's probably 30, 40 people already, and that was probably a year ago. So we anticipate we could have 40, 50, 60, 70 people, 100 people would be great, who will be interested in being a part of that.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of groups too. I think there's 50 or 100, somewhere in that ballpark, hopefully, who either live in Columbia or down toward Columbia, or that's their city, that's where their long-term fit, whatever, and they'll jump in immediately. I'm hoping we get 50 or 100 in addition to that, either who are just kind of entrepreneurial, and they like to start stuff, and they're saying, I don't want to go there long-term, but I'll go there for a year, I'll go there for 6 months, I'll commit to that. You know, when we started WellSpring, we had what we call a scaffolding team. It's, scaffolding goes up while the building's being built, and the scaffolding comes down, and no one's upset at the scaffolding. So if that was you, and you're just like, I live here closest to the camp, I don't want to drive to Columbia long term. I live in Wades Grove maybe, or wherever. But I'll go down there for 6 to 8 months and help them get started, and I'll come back, and it won't be like I'm leaving them. I'm scaffolding. I help them get started, and I'm coming back. Because then all of a sudden you're talking about 100 to 200 people total, and that changes the whole dynamic. That's a real healthy start.
Yeah, and I work some on the kind of the admin or the back end side with the WellSpring app, and out of around 500 profiles, I want to say maybe 50 or 60 of those have Columbia zip codes attached to them, so that'll give you some idea if that kind of holds over the church body as a whole.
Profile of family or
It's
as an individual?
Is the Columbia Initiative group just for people from Columbia? Which staff member will provide oversight? It seems like a lot of additional work for the current staff.
So what's going to happen Right now, it's scheduled for April 14th at 9 in the morning. There's going to be a meeting for everybody who's interested in being part of the Columbia Initiative. We don't have a name for it other than Columbia Initiative. But anybody who wants to come to that can come. It'll be like our first gathering to see who's interested, and we just encourage you to be there. And that's the best way to get started, I think. As far as staff oversight, we're all involved in this to some degree. Andy, I know, has a great concern for it. Scott does, because Scott will be helping us as we think about how do we connect people. That'll be part of his responsibility for Columbia. Our children's ministry, they'll be involved in thinking about how the children's ministry will work in Columbia. So we'll all be involved to some degree.
And I think, as Andy said, there may be some of you who are entrepreneurial, even from a spiritual standpoint, and a big auditorium, that's great, but what really gets you fired up is the idea of starting something new and helping get a church kind of launched from the beginning. So, yeah, I don't think you don't have to live in a certain zip code, you don't have to be from a certain zip code to be involved in that. Okay. All right, so we're drawing near the end of the Q&A time. We don't want to keep you guys here beyond what we had promised. By all means, find one of us later if you have a question that you're like, man, I don't want to leave here tonight until I get an answer to this. I think any of these guys will be able to chat with you about that. But wanted to move on a little bit and give you a heads up about a couple of other things that are happening. We're going to give something else in addition to the commitment card. We're going to give you something else to take home with you tonight. Throughout time, a ring has been a symbol of a vow, a promise. And so we'll show a video here in a moment, and then we're going to move on to the next stage of the evening. But each of you will have tables kind of as you exit the auditorium. And we've got these, they're very simple. They're rings, and they just say trusting the promise on them. And we've got 3 different sizes, a few different colors. We've even got small sizes. So if you have kids who are old enough to be responsible with a ring, they won't try to eat it. Grab some of those for your kids. If you want to let them pick out their own, as far as their own color or whatever, you can come back and grab one of those. But we'd encourage you to take one, set it somewhere you can wear it. You can set it somewhere where you're going to see it, just as a reminder to be praying for this initiative. There are some of you who are going to say, I don't wear jewelry, I don't know what to do with a ring. For you, we have a different kind of ring, a key ring. We actually have some Trusting the Promise key rings out there. So again, after we roll this video, which we'll get to in a second, you will be able to grab those on your way. We're going to move to the activity center next after this. But one thing I did want to share with you, my wife and I recently watched Schindler's List. And at the end of that movie, there was this statement, and it just really struck me. And the statement is, he's telling Oscar Schindler, kind of at the end of the movie, he says to him, there will be generations because of what you've done. And I heard that, and I was like, wow. And obviously, it's not an apples-to-apples comparison, but as you think and pray about what's happening here, we're not asking you to commit to building a church building. We're asking you to commit to building the church, to building the kingdom, and inviting you to be a part of that. And there may be some of you who are like, this is kind of a huge commitment. I'm not sure if I'm ready to jump in. And with that in mind, we wanted to show you what it looks like, kind of what difference your life can make when you go all in for the kingdom. And to do that, we visited just a few couples who have been faithfully serving kind of under the radar at WellSpring for a decade or more. And so these are couples, they aren't on staff, they aren't elders, but they helped through their service, through their sacrifice, helped us get to where we are today. So we'll roll this video just to give you an idea of what that might look like. We as a church have kind of realized that we don't often do a great job of telling people thank you. And so we're reaching out to people who have been a part of WellSpring for a long stretch of time and have been serving under the radar in a lot of ways for a long time. And so what I have for you and what we'll do here We reached out to people within WellSpring and said, do you know these people? Do you want to say anything to them? Would you like to thank them for who they are, what they mean to you, what they mean to the church? What we're going to do is ask you guys if you would read a few of these out loud.
Okay.
Kevin and Erica, I just can't describe what you guys mean to our family. We feel so at home and at peace with you guys. There's a lot of talk about finding family at WellSpring, and you guys are family to us. It would be so easy to just stay in a life group together forever, or to always come to the same worship service and sit with you guys. But we both know that's not the point of it all.
I came to Christ later as an adult, and from a background of biological sciences, I really kept looking for proof. I found that in you, and it matched Matthew 5:14-16. You have a joy in the Lord that it radiates from you. It is contagious and powerful and mighty. Thank you for being a light on a hill to me and so many others.
Kevin, you make Jeremiah Speaks practice fun, and you have been so encouraging to me over the years. I remember when I would sing and you would give me weird faces, so I would laugh and loosen up more and get out of my head.
Oh, I'm shaking. I feel like I won the lottery or something, I swear. As I sit and think about the impact your family has made on the church at WellSpring, it brings a smile to my face. Your boys have grown into amazing young men. And as you go through the business of your daily lives, I'm not sure that you recognize the impact your family has had on others.
There is another surprise guest.
Oh boy.
Oh.
Who will be joining us probably any moment. So.
I can still remember with quite a bit of clarity the day we first met, October the 5th, 2003. WellSpring opened the doors of Spring Hill Elementary School for the first time, for its first worship service. We had told our core group not to invite anyone that day, save the invites for 2 weeks later for the grand opening, and everyone cooperated with that request except for 2 couples, 2 rebellious couples, and 1 little bitty boy. You guys with Ty and Casey and 1-year-old Grayson came to the school, and I still remember the day. I remember Amy and I talking off to the side as the service was starting. What do we do with these guys? We didn't invite them. Why are they here? Amy and I are grateful that you came, and looking back, we're also grateful that you guys never left. There's so many things I could thank you for. Working with the teen worship band, leading and hosting with heart and passion, making so many pretty logos. There's so many things I could thank you for, but mostly I want to thank you for trusting God enough to share your life with Him and with me, with us, for our lives are better because of you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Man.
Dear Chad and Tanis, I wanted to drop you a note to let you know how much your family means to us at WellSpring. No, I don't socialize with your family. I most likely wouldn't come to your mind if you were asked about people at church that appreciate you and your family and prayed for each of you, but I do. You make it look easy and approachable, all while being the mom we want to be. And you do it all while pointing out the funny flaws that show you don't have always Pinterest together, which just makes anyone else around you feel closer, more connected, instead of feeling left behind and not good enough.
Chad, I've noticed something funny. Every guy at WellSpring thinks that you are his go-to buddy when projects go sideways. And they always go sideways. And I really believe that every guy who does this secretly thinks that he's the only one who calls you in a pinch. When things go bad, guys call Chad. Tanis, you just make me laugh all the time. I have this sneaking suspicion that a lot of people have no idea all the things that you do. If there's a woman in a bad spot, you're usually already there helping the healing to begin by the time we find out about it. It's like you've built your life on generosity. The reward for that life at WellSpring may only be a stack of letters, but I have to think that your heavenly reward is going to be unbelievable.
Pretty good. Well, I will leave the rest with you. We do have one more. We've got a special guest.
I'm not special. Chad, you don't know what it's like to be in a ministry family that can, in a matter of months, unexpectedly find its address changed from house number to zip code, or to have to walk away from a set of friendships that have lasted for years and into a new set of friends that you met a few weeks before. That being the case, it's likely that you don't know just how isolated someone can feel when they're supposed to be home in a place that isn't home yet. But if that is the case, then it's also difficult for you to know the incredible impact of having a person at your side who works like he's getting paid for it, but he isn't, who shares his bank account like it's unlimited, but it isn't, who grins like he's secretly dating your sister, but she wouldn't, and who makes himself available like he's got nothing better to do, but he almost always does. One other thing you don't know then is how much you mean to me and to my family. How you minister to us goes beyond what we would ever expect. Whether it's hauling a 300-pound TV into the house, making sure our daughter's car is safe to drive, or simply providing comic relief in a deer blind with your shooting skills. Reasons like those are only a small part of the larger sum of why you feature so largely on my personal map of friendships that matter most. Your gift and energy and service and time and self can hardly be matched. It testifies that your heart belongs to God's kingdom before your own. Your commitment to serving in every way possible to influence and impact lives for God is exemplary, inspiring others to serve as well, and doing so with a joyful heart. Because of your heart for ministry, you are priceless to the church family of WellSpring. But because of your friendship, you are worth so much more to me as a brother. You are loved. The end.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Dear Rich and Mary Ellen, where have the years gone? It seems like just yesterday we first met the two of you at the elementary school, working with those precious babies and kids down that hallway, praying over the school, working on setup and tear down. Rich, I smile when I picture you working so diligently to get everyone parked in sweltering hot sunshine and cold, miserable rain. You've served with a smile and been faithful in the little things, from building a house on the parking lot in the snow to quietly helping when a family needs something fixed. I'm not sure you know exactly how much you are appreciated. You demonstrate what a servant heart looks like, and the faithfulness that both of you have shown with our home fellowship group has connected our lives in ways we'll never understand on this side of heaven. I know there are times that the enemy tries to downplay what you're both doing, attacking when you're tired and tempting you to just give up. It's during those times that it is the most evident how much you do. The enemy doesn't bother harassing people that aren't a threat to him.
I just want to let you both know how much you mean to us. What you do is noticed. What you do matters. What you do glorifies God. You are both such a special addition to our lives. I will never forget the time we have had on the softball field. It was so much fun this year with you in the dugout. You are not only our sponsor, but our greatest fan. I know that your desire is to provide an environment for men to spend quality time with each other. Often we neglect this aspect of our lives, but as you have said, it is really critical. Mariel and I have been blessed by our many conversations over the years as you have shared wisdom about parenting, help with navigating life as a Christian woman, and following God's will in my life.
One of the things that really makes you stand out is your servant's heart, whether it's teaching children, serving breakfast at the Nashville Rescue Mission, or praying for the needs of friends. Your love of Christ shines through all that you do. So thank you for being you, for all you do for WellSpring, and for being my friend.
We do have one more letter that's going to be read by somebody who really appreciates you as well.
Rich and Mary Ellen, you two have so faithfully and so quietly honored God through the way you've served our church family. It's not uncommon for people to get excited about service for a time, and then they burn out or lose interest or fade away. But you guys are just so faithful in the way you offer your lives for the kingdom. I guess what I'm saying is that it's not just your repairs that are reliable, Rich. Through your involvement in the last men's retreat to your consistent sponsorship of the men's softball team, you've shown such great dedication to strengthening what you so frequently call the heartbeat of America, men. Mary Ellen, I can't tell you what a comfort it was to have you watching and praying over Anna during her relatively interesting first week of life. We had no clue that she was planning to stay at Williamson Medical Center for a while instead of coming home with us. It was tiring and overwhelming and more than a little scary for us. But your presence brought peace to everything. And I'm sure you've brought that same peace and reassurance to dozens or maybe hundreds of WellSpring women during your time there. Although I'd wager that most of them, like us, got so busy adjusting to life with a newborn that we never said a proper thank you. So from both Katie and me, thank you. You make such a wonderful team, and we, both the Hancocks and WellSpring as a whole, are honored to be in the service of the King with you. I love you guys. Can I give you a hug?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm all about the hug.
The couples in this video have a special place in the history of our church, and God has used dozens of families like these to help people follow Jesus. But this video isn't as much about the past as it is about the future. As we begin the Trusting the Promise initiative, I want to leave you with one question. How might God use you over the coming years to help people in the Spring Hill and Columbia areas follow Jesus? Let's trust the promise together for you, your children, and the future.